Today on Ag Etc. Brityne Rucker is with Holly Higgens at the Women Managing the Farm Conference. She talks about the history and purpose behind the conference. Then Brityne heads to the 2020 Cover Crop Conference and talks with Sara Lancaster from the Department of Agronomy at K-State. Learn about suppressing weeds when you implement cover crops into your system. Then meet Bailey Hittle, a senior at Kansas State University who is one of our young leaders in ag. And to wrap up, see how cattle genetics plays a huge role in making cattle competitive in the bidding world. It's all coming up on Ag Etc. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families in rural Kansas for more than 100 years. We're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial values commitment and transparency.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
I'm Brityne Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas. I am at the 2020 Women Managing the Farm Conference, and with me now is the new conference chair, Holly Higgens.
Yes.
Holly, what is the purpose behind this conference?
Well, I believe this conference was started 16 years ago. The first time we did this, we did it 4 different locations throughout the state. Lots of driving. The speakers would end up going to 4 different locations. They decided to pare it down to 1. We've had lots of great participation, but what it really is for people, women that are interested in agriculture, to come together and talk about like interests, network, build relationships, be educated. We have everything. I remember one time sitting at one of the meals, and there were 2 sets of sisters. One of them had inherited a farm, and they wanted to go back and farm that, although they had absolutely no background in what they were doing. Right now they had it leased out. And so they were learning some, and I remember thinking, wow, there's a lot to learn. Agriculture isn't something you can just pick up by picking up, reading a book. Right. But what a great place to start is to listen to all these. These are quality speakers that come in from other states here that know exactly what they're talking about. And then there's another set of sisters that had been farming, or one of them had been farming, and the other one wanted to come on, and they were trying to learn things together so they could have, kind of be educated together and know what was going on. So, that's kind of the main gist of it, and is to be educated and to network. And to build friends. When I put something on Facebook yesterday that said, boy, I hope to see old friends and make new friends.
Yeah, exactly. And even though it is by title Women Managing the Farm, it isn't just exclusive to women. No,
it isn't. No. Some men are welcome to come along. In fact, several come with their wives. I couldn't tell you if a man registered separately or not, but there would be absolutely nothing that would exclude them from doing that. Some people say, well, do you need a seminar, a seminar just for women?
Right.
Well, it does just have a whole different atmosphere, and they talk, and they make decisions together.
Right.
It's just something that has carried on as successful, so we kept doing it.
And just having a successful team partnership in this.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. Now, Holly, a little bit promotion for the 2021 conference coming up. What would you tell people interested that's never even attended this event, what they could bring away from it?
Well, again, if so, as soon as the agenda is fixed, so as chair, we'll start almost as soon as this is over and start planning the program for next year, and and deciding what areas we look at the evaluations and see what people liked, and and then we say, well, what else would you like to see? And so we start going out and we put out like a call, if they want to present, and so it starts. But what they'll get is great education. They'll come away and know a lot more than when they leave. They're going to know a lot more when they came, and they're also, again, hate to keep, but they're going to have relationships and friendships and a group to go to that they can call upon if they have any issues.
Well, a big thank you to Holly Higgens for being on the program. I'm Brityne Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to an orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And said, well, we'll have to do surgery. I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
I'm Brityne Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas. I am at the 2020 Midwest Cover Crop Conference, and a big discussion at the conference is weed suppression from cover crops. And speaking on that topic is Sara Lancaster from Kansas State University. So, Sara, cover crops can play a huge role in the suppression of weeds.
Cover crops absolutely can play a huge role in the suppression of weeds, Brityne. One of the things, from my perspective, that is very important in terms of cover crops and weed suppression is how cover crops can play a role in helping us to manage some herbicide-resistant weeds, particularly things like Palmer amaranth, water hemp, kochia, which are some of the major weeds in the state and also have pretty widespread herbicide resistance across the state. So cover crops absolutely can be beneficial in terms of suppressing the growth of those types of weeds.
And variety selection plays a huge role in that.
Absolutely. So probably more than variety selection, I would say would be species selection. When you think about growing cover crops for weed suppression, it's important to think about biomass production by that cover crop. So in general, grasses, cereal rye is one that is used a lot for this purpose. Grasses tend to be pretty aggressive growers and produce a lot of biomass that can then turn around and suppress weeds. If you're looking for a spring planted crop, something like oats also provides a lot of weed suppression.
Now, planting is also a huge factor in consideration of cover crops.
Yes, so when we think about managing weeds with cover crops and planting date, one of the key things to think about is when will your target weed emerge? Because you want to make sure that you have that cover crop in place before that weed emerges, so that cover crop will effectively outcompete that weed for the resources that are needed. Cover crop termination is always a question for crop producers, especially in Kansas, where we have such a variety of moisture conditions that interact with that cover crop termination date to affect not only weed control, but the overall productivity of that crop production system. When we think about managing cover crops for weed suppression, the general rule of thumb that comes out from the data is that the closer that you are to the time of planting your production crop, the better weed management or weed suppression you'll have from that cover crop. So you allow it time to accumulate more biomass. It's also actively competing with those weeds for a longer period of time.
So you're really encouraging producers to really get on the ball and plant their cover crops as soon as they can after harvesting.
That would definitely be a recommended practice, especially when we think about things like kochia or mare's tail horseweed. Those crops tend to emerge in the fall, or very early in the spring. And so if you can have your cover crop established shortly after you harvest your preceding production crop, you'll have better results in terms of weed suppression with those in general.
Right. And there are some management factors in weeds and cover crops.
Absolutely. So the three kind of main factors to think about that growers can control would be your planting date, your species selection, and your termination timing. So again, planting date, you want to make sure that you have given those cover crops a chance to become established before your key weeds have a chance to become established. In terms of species selection, again, for weed suppression, it goes back to biomass. And so choosing species of cover crops that produce a lot of biomass at the key times for your target weeds. Some crops are better at producing fall biomass, some are better at producing spring biomass. But having that biomass in place and choosing a cover crop type, particularly grasses, but also brassicas to some degree, that can produce a lot of biomass. And then the third would be termination. And so what we find from termination is that how you choose to terminate your cover crop doesn't matter. So if you're in a situation where you would like to reduce reliance on herbicides and terminate your cover crop with a mechanical method like rolling, then that's okay as long as you have your timing correct.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Sara Lancaster at the 2020 Midwest Cover Crops Conference.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer it and work with you.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Welcome back to Ag AM in Kansas, and I am with Sara Lancaster at the 2020 Midwest Cover Crops Conference talking about weed suppression from cover crops.
Now, a few factors playing into or affecting weed suppression our days, family, and biomass. So you kind of discussed that, and you had some trials at K-State.
Right. We did have some trials at K-State. They were focused on how can cover crops help us to manage particularly herbicide-resistant palmer amaranth and water hemp. And the key takeaway, so the treatments they used in those studies, they had row crop cultivation, they had row spacing of soybean and grain sorghum, they had cover crops. They used a winter wheat cover crop, and then they had chemical weed control. Okay, so when we looked at how that winter wheat suppressed weeds, so when we look at those management factors and we think about row crop cultivation, for example, it had very little effect on weed management when averaged across the other treatments. When we consider row spacing, it was pretty variable in terms of the response of the pigweed growth to row spacing of sorghum and soybean. It was very dependent on production environment. When we think about cover crops, it's also dependent on environment because those cover crops are changing the soil conditions in which your weeds are germinating. So in years that were, for example, particularly dry, cover crops actually sort of helped our pigweeds a little bit. In years where it was average or maybe wet, we had better suppression of the pigweeds with those cover crops. Now, the good thing about these particular studies is they included some effective herbicide programs. And so if you find yourself in a situation where your cover crop doesn't control your weeds maybe the way you want it to, we still have those herbicides as an option in some situations.
Now you kind of went into this, but weed size does make a big difference.
When we think about cover crop suppression and weed size, one of the most important things that changes is how long it takes those weeds to achieve a height where they're difficult to control with the herbicides. So because those cover crops can change the environment in which those seeds are germinating, often weeds will grow slower in a cover crop than they would otherwise. That slower growth gives producers a bigger window of time where they can go in and effectively use herbicides and make herbicide applications that are in accordance with label recommendations of that 4 to 6 inch weed size.
Well, a big thank you to Sara Lancaster for being at the conference. I'm Brityne Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas.
At Farm Credit, we partner with America's farmers who work hard each and every day to grow the food that we all enjoy. It's not an easy task, but it's an important one. Farm Credit is proud to work with farmers and ranchers, lending support in rural America.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families in rural Kansas for more than 100 years. We're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
This segment brought to you by Farm Credit Associations of Kansas, lending support to rural America, and by American Ag Service, your DuPont Pioneer dealer.
I'm Brityne Rucker, and welcome back to Ag AM in Kansas. Today we have our Young Leaders in Ag segment, and with me now I have Bailey Hittle, Senior in Agricultural Communications and Journalism at K-State. Bailey, what is your background in the agricultural industry?
So my background in the agriculture industry is a little different than a lot of people. I grew up on a small quarter horse ranch in a little small town Kansas community, and so that's really what got me started in agriculture. I grew up rodeoing and riding horses with my brother and father, and so When looking into careers, I knew I wanted to stay ag-based for sure because that played such a large role growing up.
Now, was K-State your natural next step?
Yeah, K-State has always been on my radar. I'm a first-generation college student, and growing up, my mom and I had always talked about, if she had been able to have the opportunity to go to college, what embodied what our family wanted to do, and what had those values and stuff that we really love. And so we'd always talked about K-State. And so when I was a senior sitting in my ag teacher's classroom talking about where I wanted to go to school, it was just naturally to say K-State.
And you had some opportunities with some internships that really led you down what you're doing today.
Yeah, for sure. I had the amazing opportunity to coming out of my freshman year of college right into an internship with the Kansas Water Office. I helped them out with their graphic design when I first started on just graphic design, but now I do their social media. I help with some event planning, just a little bit of everything for them. And they've been so awesome in letting me do a little bit of videography, photography, graphic design, and just really help me blossom and build up my portfolio so that moving forward, I can find all of these other great agriculture jobs and put the skills that they've helped me teach and develop to good use.
Now, Bailey, you don't only intern, you've also branched off into your own company.
That's right. As a junior in college, I started Bailey Design Co. It's a small graphic design company where we help small businesses, typically in the agriculture field, but not only in the agriculture field, help them brand themselves with logo development, social media management, helping them get those social media sites off the ground with website building, photography, videography, a little bit of everything. And so it's really helped me put, again, those skills that I've learned to good use.
Now, Bailey, last question, and probably loaded question. Where do you see yourself fitting in this broad industry in agriculture?
Well, as most of us know, communications isn't going anywhere with social media. If anything, communications is becoming more and more prevalent. So in the future, I see myself sticking with Bailey Design Co. and building that up and becoming its own brand, but as well working for another ag industry, maybe another state agency. I don't know. We'll see where the future holds.
Well, very good. A big thank you to Bailey Hittle, Senior in Agricultural Communications at K-State, for being on our Young Leaders in Ag segment. I'm Brityne Rucker, and this has been Ag AM in Kansas.
At Farm Credit, we partner with America's farmers who work hard each and every day to grow the food that we all enjoy. It's not an easy task, but it's an important one. Farm Credit is proud to work with farmers and ranchers, lending support in rural America.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
The key to making cattle more competitive in the bidding world is in their genetics and the growing programs that document them.
That is happening because buyers are utilizing data points, whether that's through harvest or in these programs that are identifying cattle with better genetic merit, because we know that there's too much risk involved in feeding an average calf when we can feed an above average calf, or better specifically said, that we can pay a premium on the cattle that deserve a premium, and help us make smarter risk management decisions when we're purchasing calves to feed.
Taking advantage of resources and programs like Angus Link will shine a light on calves with highly sought-after genetics.
The nice thing it does is it allows a third-party verifier to quantify a genetic merit prediction on the calves that are selling. It also forces our commercial bull customers to have an accurate inventory of the bulls in their herd, and allows them to do a better job of looking at those and identifying, let's say, the least favorables, and making long-term decisions that are better for their profitability.
With no more than 20% of commercial calves kept as replacement heifers, 80% of each calf crop should be geared to make a profit in the feed yard.
We need to concentrate on those profit drivers too on behalf of our commercial bull customers, even if they're not directly pulling them from you on sale day. That doesn't mean that it's not your responsibility as a seed stock producer to give a full picture, a whole profit margin, and improve the profitability throughout the balance of those bulls on their EPD profiles.
Profit drivers might vary by source, transportation, and many other factors, but the primary driver is always the same.
When you break it all down and you put calves into a feed yard and they line up at a bunk, they're in the same exact environment, they've got the same health protocols, and they're receiving the same feed ration, and we see the difference in profit margins on a pen of cattle that can vary as much as $400 up and down. That tells you where the big price driver there is, and that's in genetics.
Barry says the best way to improve a herd is by working with the bottom half more than the top half of genetics.
Because we make most progress not from making the better into the best. We make the most product from making the average into the better. And that's where these tools can really benefit, regardless of which section or segment it is, whether it's the seed stock producer, the cow-calf guy, the feeder, anywhere through that chain, you can utilize those tools to help you make smarter decisions.
I'm Bob Cervera.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.